Welcome, everyone. Can everyone hear us? Okay, welcome. All right, so we're here with Matt Ferrari as well, and we're going to give you a little bit of a chat on Wayfair's transformation journey. So a quick intro for me, 20 plus years in IT, managing large transformations for multiple organizations, whether it was in pharma, financial services, banking, insurance, legal, a couple of technology transformations as well. Also sit on the IT media board as well, but doing multiple CIO conversations and getting insights. Give a little intro of Matt as well. So Matt, before I read that out, I'm just letting you know, Gemini actually knows about you.
Okay.
So I'm going to actually give you a little perspective on what Gemini said about you.
Okay.
And then you tell me if the grounding is right or wrong.
Okay.
All right? So Matt's a tech powerhouse. He's a multiple-time CTO who simply lives and breathes software that supercharges businesses through automation. He's obsessed with delivering next-level customer experience and having deep cloud expertise, focusing on building rock-solid, scalable, and secure environments. As head of platforms at Wayfair, he's driving the future of Wayfair's platforms, data, and ML, driving innovation across engineering and product teams to drive exceptional experience and market dominance. So, what was that talk?
Well, hi everyone. I'm not a powerhouse. I am passionate about software and security. I give Gemini like a C- on that description.
That's still pretty good though.
Yeah.
It's improving.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Matt, why don't you give us a little bit of a background, because there's many who know about Wayfair. We are shoppers at Wayfair as well and existing customers. So just give us a background on Wayfair.
Okay, sure. So hopefully everyone who knows who Wayfair is, since we have limited time, I'm not going to focus on that. Think about it instead as a technology marketplace. Of course, you use it to buy home goods, and we certainly love you for that. Thank you. But the truth is, it's a marketplace that has 20,000 suppliers across the globe, and it's a marketplace that is using intelligence, including AI, to do things like have pricing bidding and do fulfillment globally and have global supply chain ecosystems and really focus on how do we get the best thing that you are looking for to you at the right time for the best price. And so that's kind of the ecosystem itself. We're going to dive into the platform as we go through.
Thanks, man. So maybe just a little bit of background on the ecosystem of number of customers and also number of suppliers as well, because that number seems to grow on a year-over-year basis as well.
Yeah, so over 22 million active customers across the Wayfair platform. Not that many people know, and I wouldn't blame anyone if you don't know all of Wayfair's brands. You probably know wayfair.com. But the truth is, multiple brands over multiple decades that have been developed for different levels of what you're looking for. So we have luxury brands like Paragold and economy brands as well. So really kind of, are you furnishing your luxury vacation home, or are you furnishing my son's dorm? And so we have different tiers for different services. The only reason I bring this up here is because as we think about a tech platform, we have to think about intelligence on how to drive things like personalization, recommendations, search, all the things that feed generative AI as we try to target where a customer should look for their item.
So speaking of generative AI, and just talking about the Gartner Hype Cycle as well, just wanted to bring this up. We're definitely seeing Gen AI in the trough of disillusionment. And it's not a bad thing. I think it gives organizations, businesses to think through, and they're kind of going through away from the hype as well, but really realizing what it's going to take to implement AI. We're going to need data. We're going to need planning. We're going to need data governance as well. We're going to need security as well, and ethics and privacy and compliance as well. So I guess I would say in this warp speed era of innovation, we got to see quite a few things at the keynote and yesterday at the Sphere as well, which is, and Google being the AI leader, I would say generating content to drive customer outcomes and customer engagement, creating a conversational experience to improve experience for our customers as well. And then the view about that you will say as well, which is about operational innovation as well. How do I kind of control and manage costs through that journey as well, right? Which is core. So moving along, I think what we want to do is we really want to, let's do a double click on what the transformation was. And then as next piece, we'll talk about the outcomes, because I think many times we struggle in driving the outcomes as well. So let's start on the journey, and then we'll talk about the outcomes from that.
Yeah, sure. So Wayfair, 22-year-old company, thousands of applications, Hello. Thousands of applications, a lot of them built in what's known as a monolith. As most people hopefully know what a monolith is, right? Oftentimes a series of services, websites. Many of you have them, you own them. It's your lifeblood. It's certainly that at Wayfair and many Fortune 500 companies. So we went through and are continuing to go through a transformation. Part of that transformation includes decoupling from that monolith. Some of that, and we're going to dive into it, some of that is moving to things like microservices, some of it's moving to cloud-native technologies, some of it's moving to serverless technologies, some of it's moving to cloud-native databases, and we'll dive into all that stuff. But at the core of Wayfair was, how do we get features faster to our customers and our suppliers? We shouldn't be thinking about infrastructure and technology all day long, even though I'm a technologist. We should be thinking about outcomes. And so that's where the tech transformation started for Wayfair. One of the key things that we focused on was how can we use AI to accelerate it. We didn't have enough people. We've got between 2,000 and 3,000 software engineers. That's not enough to decompose, decouple, move things away from monolith, move things to cloud services for over 6,000 applications. Matter of fact, it would take decades. So we went and we partnered with both Google and Pythian to build essentially AI capabilities. AI capabilities to do things like accelerate the decoupling, do things like move us away from stored procedures of over 60,000 stored procedures in the environment. Did things like really focus on how can we ultimately get to a cloud native like state as quickly as humanly possible. Many of you are probably adopters of Vertex. We were a big believer and big adopter in Vertex AI as we thought about that transformation. And so we partnered with Pythian on that. Pythian actually helped build the tool, deploy the tool. We're still actually leveraging it today inside of our environment. And then that really drove, let's say, internal evangelism at Wayfair. You might work for a company where you're still like imagineering what AI is going to be like inside of your organization. How do you drive adoption? Wayfair drove adoption by proving that we could move away from a monolithic architecture so we could drive features faster, and ultimately so we could drive availability up compared to like traditional SQL, traditional VMs, those kind of things. And that drove internal evangelism. Now all of a sudden we had thousands of engineers, including in corporate employees, that were excited about using things like Gemini for workspaces. How can I, rather than just do boring things like summarize an email, how can I use that to actually change the way that I do my job? And so that's where Wayfair is headed now, and Pythian has been the key partner that's helped educate our organization along the way.
Thanks, Matt. So I've been part of multiple transformations myself, done many multiple sectors as well. But one of the core things of not falling in 85% of the transformations that fail into that paradigm per se, core things that you want to focus on is the business outcomes and how you measure the outcomes accordingly as well. The transformation should be, you should be able to relate to those outcomes as well. So walk us through kind of some of the outcomes as well, because these numbers are truly phenomenal.
Yeah, so outcomes. So if you're using generative, you probably started from a place of like code generation or code transformation or test coverage. That's where Wayfair started too. And I don't want to say that that's not important. It's incredibly important. But to your point, we need to get to a place where it's driving some kind of business outcome, some kind of business input. And so where Wayfair went was we first focused on, okay, can we decouple enough of our applications to provide a faster and more consistent experience for our customers? That started with replatforming what you guys use, the mobile app or the website, right? The storefront of Wayfair.com. And so you can see that a lot of that transformation is happening. It's continuing to happen. That drove an outcome, as you can see, of about 23% faster response time, load time. If you are a tech nerd like me, you don't just think about load time, you think about kind of the so what. You're talking about traditional SQL databases that are hundreds of petabytes in many cases, that have pricing information, that have inventory information, that have supply chain information, super slow, super archaic. And so leveraging generative AI, moving to cloud-native databases, that's allowed us to increase speed by 23%. Pretty cool. You think about, I'll just pick a couple more because I know we're limited on time. You think about investment. Everyone's talking about generative AI. I was joking in the back. I happen to run or champion our spend governance process at Wayfair, about 350 vendors that we talk to. Everyone's pitching Gen AI, right? But we wanted to focus on where should we make our investments within generative. And so we focused on, okay, where are we spending our time? We're spending our time troubleshooting problems inside of a monolithic repository or a series of monolithic repositories. So we focused on how can we drive down incidents? provide a better customer experience, but then re-leverage all of our software development brain power to go focus on how to drive better business outcomes in the generative space. And as part of that, we launched things like, if you buy a piece of furniture, now you get free white glove service. So somebody will come into your house and assemble it, because I suck at assembling things, and maybe some of you do too. And so we started building that, and we launched that stuff all because we were able to re-platform and provide a better experience for our customers.
Yeah, I would say that as you went on the journey of transforming, you also went on the journey of transforming and partnering with your vendor management as well to see and find what the strategic partners are, right?
Yeah.
So key core point from that perspective onward. All right, moving forward. So we all went on the transformation journeys. We kind of double clicked on the transformation. We talked about, the Gartner Hype Cycle a little bit. We talked about us as well. We talked about what are the things that we did as part of the transformation as well, and the ROIs that came about that. But I think one of the core things that I wanted to double click on, we chatted about this a little bit as well, is as you go on the transformation journey, there are lessons learned. And we as the audience would kind of like to know, what were lessons learned, what were gold nuggets for you? What were the do's and the don'ts that you would want to give some recommendations to us?
Yeah, sure. So if you've ever met me, you know I'm a pretty blunt person, so get ready. So first, let's talk about core transformation. We thought about it from a 4-tenant perspective, right? Can we use cloud-native technology wherever possible so that we don't have to do things like maintain an internal SLA or OLA? Do we need to have an army of people that are managing these environments moving forward? So we thought about it that way. Then we thought about team health. Can we have enough talent from a geographic perspective and a health perspective that can invest in these cloud-native services, and the folks that are going to allow, let's say, a culture of learning, because this ecosystem is changing so darn fast that we need folks that are constantly focusing on learning new technologies. And so we expanded the horizon to be a global organization from a technology perspective. A key area where we partnered with Pythian and Google was domain-driven architecture. I'm sure all of you are part of it, but think about moving to serverless, or moving to microservices, and moving away from a monolith, and moving to SPDBs where required, those kind of things. And so Wayfair thought about that from a tenancy perspective as we thought about our tech transformation. And then finally, we really thought about, I'll go back to team health for a second. How do we actually empower the team? One of the key things that we focused on both Pythian and Google was, rather than I run infrastructure, so I say this in a bit of a damning way, rather than us holding the keys and doing provisioning for you or using a third-party tool, how can we give you direct access to GCP wherever plausible, and build guardrails, or use third-party guardrails, or use Google security tools to build safeguards around it so you don't do anything stupid. And so those were the tendencies behind how we built the transformation. Now, I said direct, you said pitfalls, cool. Make sure that all these products are baked was a lesson learned. Google is transforming incredibly fast. Services are being constantly iterated on and released constantly. But the truth is, as we build out our tech transformation, sometimes we jumped in with 2 feet when the product wasn't fully baked. And so thankfully, thanks to Google being an engineering organization, we've been partnering with them on, let's say, catching up in some specific areas where we need that kind of innovation. But the truth is, sometimes we leaped before we were actually ready. And that was a lesson learned. The second one I would say is really around education. A key area where Pythian was incredibly helpful, where GCP's partner team was very helpful, was really around educating an organization. I said earlier, roughly 3,000 software engineers that are writing, let's say, Go or Java or PHP. We're not going to teach them on all the best practices of GKE tomorrow. That's not going to happen. And so rather than just throw a Pluralsight or a class at them, how do we augment that by providing either consulting services, on-site services, third-party services to help drive a culture of evangelism and a culture of learning? And so that was an area of learning and opportunity for Wayfair as well.
I think I would say is that there's three things that I just took away from that as part of the journey: patience, perseverance, and empathy.
Sure.
And empowerment as well for
Sure.
the employees as well as part of the team health as well.
Yeah.
So great, thanks, Matt. So I would say yesterday, how many were at the Sphere? Many? Quite a few? I think you guys were just astonished by what it was, watching Wizard of Oz in 16K, and I think I go back and look at it. I wanted to kind of share this. There's many Trekkie fans that are out there as well. Where I felt was really the phrase which was to boldly go where no one has gone before. And that's kind of what I felt yesterday. what I felt today at the keynote as well. So I guess maybe give us a little bit of a perspective on Wayfair and AI and what's next for in retail from that perspective.
Yeah, sure. So I get your analogy. I am a Star Wars fan, however.
Nice.
Okay, so customer experience and supplier outcomes. Really focusing on how can we provide faster response time to our customers using generative AI, and how can we provide more targeted search. If you've searched historically at Wayfair or Amazon or others, you know that sometimes you get a list. You get a list of things that you want that red couch, it's going to give you a list of red couches. Wayfair has kind of redefined the customer experience in a couple ways. One of the ways is that we launched essentially the ability to envision the room and the furniture in the room in your home. You can do that in the mobile app. You would have heard press releases about that on things called like Muse, as an example, where Wayfair is now giving you the ability to take pictures of your room. It will actually put it into the app, and you can use our AI technology to actually put things in the room, make sure it fits, make sure it looks good, make sure it matches, all those kind of things. So that's an example. A second example is really something that you might have seen on the keynote today when the Wayfair slide came up around response time for our suppliers regarding things like pricing in our catalog databases. I mentioned our catalog databases, enormous, multi-decade-old SQL databases, have tens of thousands of suppliers in it, millions of products, tens of millions of tables and lines of code, and so really difficult. We partner actually with Pythian to drive better iteration and actually improve the response time of that by over a third at the end of the day using generative AI transformation. As I think about the internal workforce effectiveness, we have given AI tools to every single employee in our corporate environment. So about 18,000 employees in total now have access to some type of workforce efficiency tool. Some of that is code generation or code assist. So think Gemini, code assist, things like that. Others are Gemini for workspaces as an example. And now we're trying to drive internal workforce efficiency, challenging every single team member to think about how can they leverage AI to actually do their job. And then from a business transformation perspective, I would tell you that we are now starting to think and starting to deploy things in production like chatbots, simple GenAI use cases to start. You think about, you order something from Wayfair, it might have a problem, maybe it came from a third-party supplier, maybe there was damage in the box or something like that. Today you pick up the phone and you call. Now you have a chatbot that can efficiently answer a question consistently, route you directly to a resolution, and try to reduce the pain that you have. And so those are some of the areas where we're investing in AI.
Perfect, thanks Matt. And last but not least, I'll leave that with the audience as well, that as you continue to evaluate AI readiness, there's going to be a chat tomorrow with Howard Holton and Paul Lewis, which is going to be really understanding the new AI maturity model and the announcement of that's going to be coming out. So hopefully we'll see you guys there, and if you're ready to talk AI, Pythian's there with you at any point in time. Matt, thank you for your time, really appreciate it, and thank you for all the insights and the gold nuggets, my friend. All right, cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right.